So the goal of this presentation is to help you think about next year and plan your best running year yet. So we're going to be optimizing your year based on your race plans, your goals related to nutrition and strength training. And obviously that's going to be different for every single person, but I'm going to give you this guidance and this framework so that you can apply it to your own training. And I definitely wanted to just let you know that this is applicable no matter what pace you run. So whether I've coached who are 14-minute mile runners and 7-minute mile runners and everything in between. And it doesn't matter your pace. You can still have huge running goals. You can still apply all of these principles. Really, it's not about the pace. It's about the intention. And one thing we want to be careful and sensitive to, of course, is we want to build everything on a foundation of consistency. And when we're adding new things, we want to do that slowly and based on what you've already done. So that's going to be something that is going to be individual to you. All right. So I'm Nicole Dobransky. If you don't already know me, I know several of you. I feel I have a few of women that I've coached in the chat and a few of you that I don't recognize. So I'm really excited to meet you. I'm Nicole Dobransky, and I'm a wife and mom of 3 girls. I live in Encinitas, California, which is in San Diego, and I'm an adult onset runner. I have fallen absolutely in love with running and made it my career as an adult. I'm a former accountant, and I did my first half marathon after college because I had broken up with my college boyfriend, who was actually really controlling. He didn't like running. We didn't even go on walks. I just can't even believe what my life would have been like if I had gone that direction. And I discovered running. I fell in love with it. I met my husband, who happened to be an Ironman triathlete and a runner, and we have created this life together where I particularly coach female runners through strength training, running, and nutrition. And I've been doing that for 9 years now. I love the marathon distance, even though sometimes it doesn't love me back, but I love it. And I love all races and all distances. I'm also love to travel. When I met my husband, we went on Match.com, and my name was Travel Addict 83. So I like to say I'm a travel addict. My husband always says that I don't say that it's a real trip unless there's a stamp on my passport. But I do think there's amazing places in the United States, and I just love to go to new countries and experience different cultures. And I'm trying to get a lifelong goal of being fluent at Spanish. I was a minor in college, and now I'm 996. I actually meant to double check, but I'm on the verge of 1,000 days of Duolingo, and I still am not even close. So I don't know if anyone else does Duolingo. I love reading. I'm a foodie, which is why so much of my coaching is related to nutrition and food. And it has been a personal struggle of mine. I think when you've struggled with something, it ends up being passion and something you want to share with others. And I do Wordle every single night. I don't know if anyone else does. Although last night I actually was so tired. I'm in peak marathon training that I gave up on my Wordle, which is pretty crazy. All right, so let's get to you. You want to become the best runner you can. And this is me assuming you want to be the best runner you can. And I want to clarify that by saying, because I have a thing called mom PR or master's PR or PR. Like, as long as you want to improve, it doesn't matter if you are going to hit a lifetime PR, like the fastest marathon you've ever run or the fastest 5K or whatever that is. As long as you're in the motion of getting better, then you're here because this presentation is for you. You want to be the best runner you can, but you probably have limited time. Most of you are probably have a career. You maybe have children, depending on your age. My kids are in that phase of, which I thought when they were young and like toddlers that it was busy. It was like busy in a different way, right? And now they have all different sports. I have twins and they don't even go to the same. They're totally different interests. Luckily, they have a lot of the same friends, which helps. But you don't want to waste your time doing things that are helpful. Like we don't have time to train all day. We don't have time to think about this all day. And we want to enjoy it, right? Because we're not pro athletes, but we want to feel like we're making progress towards a goal. You probably want to eat healthier, feel better, have more energy, or maybe you want to lose weight, but you're probably also a little bit afraid of underfueling your runs because you've seen a lot about that on social media, or you've known when you've tried to cut back on calories or eat salads for lunch, then you find that you don't have energy for your runs. And maybe you want to get stronger and you're hearing all this rage about heavy lifting and building muscle, but you're like, how does that all work as a runner? So we're going to talk about all of those things today. And the last thing is you're getting older. We all are. It's just the way that it works. And most women I work with are over 35 years old. And I know there's a big difference even between 35 or if you're 55 or 65, but we're getting older, right? And on social media, there is this huge trend in two different directions, right? We're seeing the runners, the dietitians, the athletes say, eat as many carbs as possible, which I'm one of those people. It's going to tell you to eat a lot of carbs. And a lot of other messages too, right? Like it's okay if you've gained weight while training for a marathon or half marathon. You should eat Pop-Tarts before a run because that's great, source of carbs. There's also the other side that is telling you like cardio is bad for you. It's spiking your cortisol. You need to lift heavy weights. You need to eat like this extreme amount of protein, which means you should just be like carry around some cottage cheese with you all the time. And you're like, what the heck? It's very extreme. And this is the way that social media works right now, unfortunately, is extremes and pushing against each other. And I am really right there in both camps in the middle, right? I'm not going to tell you to get ahead or to go get a weighted vest. I'm not going to tell you to stop running. I am going to tell you to lift heavy weights. I'm going to tell you to eat more protein, but not 200 grams. That's insane. If you eat 200 grams of protein, you're going to have no room for the carbs that you need. So this is a place where you're going to find the middle ground on a lot of these things. And you're going to find a coach and guidance and a presentation here that you can use to put together your year where you can balance these kind of what they seem like conflicting goals. And we are going to have time for questions at the end. All right. So I'm right there with you. If you don't know my story, I'll briefly share it. But for the longest time, I was definitely in the like all or nothing, like kind of this, like I had overcome the extreme yo-yos, but I was still like on that, like, I'm jumping from like program to program, nutrition plan to nutrition plan, training cycle to training cycle. And there was this kind of, ebbs and flows. And when I turned 40, I decided to do a 50K for my 40th birthday because I wanted to do something I'd never done before. So 50K is ours was 32 and a half miles. I learned that trail running, they actually don't, the amount of miles like changes. And like on the website for the trail run, they actually had 3 different distances. Like one said 31 miles, one said 32 and a half, one said 34. So we had no idea how long this race was. Needless to say, the race distance really intimidated me. I don't know if you can relate to that, where you're doing a new adventure or a new distance or your first marathon, or you're trying to go faster at the next race. And you're like, I want to make sure I do this right. So I was definitely in that mindset of I need more fuel. I need more food. I've just ran, like literally we ran a marathon in training. I'm going to eat whatever I want and it's fine. Right. Ultimately, I ended up gaining 12 pounds during that training cycle. And I ate salads pretty much every day. I eat healthy. I eat tons of veggies and fruits. But I did have that little bit of mindset that like, I need this fuel and I'm going to give it to myself because I want to make sure I have the energy, which you do. But I went a little bit too far on the other side. And I literally talk to, as a nutrition coach for runners and have a weight loss program for runners, I talk to runners all the time who can't believe how many miles they're running and their body is not the way that they want it to look. They don't feel as good as they want. They're not sleeping or have the good energy that they want. And they're having these afternoon sugar cravings or energy crashes. And that was really what had happened to me. And because I was in that mindset of like, I'll just start again in January, that's what I did. But I'm happy to say that was the last time I started over, like that I started a plan. I started a nutrition, that the diet started Monday, was that January of 2024. Because after that, I finally implemented is now my Run Fuel weight loss program and what I teach all of my athletes that are my one-on-one clients. And that is that we need to be applying nutrition principles year round, that we need to be periodizing or shifting our nutrition depending on our goals, and that we need to fuel our bodies to perform, not run to eat. So I want to give you permission in all of this noise on social media and everything that you can love the way your body looks and performs. You can do both. I promise that there's a world where both of those things mix, that you can accept your body the way it is, but also want to change it. You can recognize that what might have worked for you when you were younger doesn't work anymore. And you can believe that the best running years are ahead of you. I went to a running coach conference and I was, sharing some, we had a dinner when I was mingling with some other run coaches, and I was sharing some of my marathon struggles with a woman, because we all have them no matter who we are. And she looked straight in the eye and leaned over and said, "Nicole, your best running years are ahead of you." And I was like, I want to cry. I was like, I don't know why I needed someone to tell me that. And so that has become like kind of a motto and my mission is like, your best running years are ahead of you. I don't care if you're 40 or you're 55 or how old you are. You can have your best running years ahead, because I know that is possible for you. Maybe it doesn't always mean a PR depending on your running history, but it can mean that you can have your best running years ahead. All right. You can do it all of these things. You just can't do it all at once. So the strength training, the nutrition, the training for a race, like having it happen all at once and doing it in like going all in, as I used to love to say that, I'm all in. It only lasts so long before you burn out, right? If you've ever tried to start a new strength training program, try to go on a diet, weight, and train for a race at the same time, it temporarily can work. You can muscle through it. And I've done it. I've done it many times in the past. And it did temporarily work. But with time, that doesn't work anymore. It just can lead to burnout. And it can really start to make you think that like those things aren't possible for you. So the concept that we're going to talk about today in each of these areas is called periodization. And if you have done any reading up on running theory, you've heard of periodization when it applies to running and the way that we schedule our training cycles. And if you've ever followed a training plan or had a coach, or you have anything besides just randomly doing runs, your plan is periodized. It is created to take you through different phases. So periodization is essentially doing different things at different times to get you ready for a peak race or your race, right? The first part of periodization we're going to talk about is running. So the running and your races. So the way that you want to think about your year, next year, 2026, is first, what I always want us to do that we have not discussed yet is really reflecting on how this year went for you and what you're most proud of, and really celebrating all of those wins. That's something that I make all of my athletes do, and we talk about a lot in my community, is we want to celebrate what we've done. A lot of us as runners tend to be type A and hard on ourselves, high achievers, and we can really like gloss over all of the wins, right? So like the first thing I'll ask someone when I get on a pre-race call is, what are all the wins? What are all the wins from the training cycle? Same with after the race. What are all the wins from your race? We really want to focus on that. Then we want to say, what do we need to work on and what excites us for next year? So if you think about your racing year for 2026, you can only realistically get in your best shape. You want to schedule your races for 2 times per year. And you want those races to be at least 5 months apart, ideally. So in this conversation, we're going to talk in the context of a spring goal race and a fall goal race, because that is in the United States kind of tends to be the most normal, frequent time that we are going to that we're going to do races. So if you want to put in the chat, because I'd love to hear from you guys, what time of year for you is the best time to have your best training and to race your best? So when you're thinking about this, I want you to think about your life. So this is specific to you, but like, where do you live? And like, does the weather really suck over the winter and spring marathon is like not ideal for you, so fall is better? Or do you live somewhere super hot and like it's not realistic for you to train in Arizona or Florida over the summer? So like an early summer or an early fall marathon is like really not ideal for you, especially if you don't like the treadmill. So what season is it, whether it is fall or it's spring? If you want to put in the chat, what season is your favorite for doing like your best race, like feeling like you have the best training cycle? I don't see anyone commenting. You guys still there? Like I said, this is the first time that I have used this like software. And so it is just really weird for me to not to be able to see your faces. So I don't know how I feel about that. But if you want to put in the chat, if it's spring, if it's fall, oh, it's coming up at the top. That's why the chat, you guys, patience with me. So on this way, the chat populates at the top. On Zoom, it populates at the bottom. Okay, I see. You're saying fall, early spring. I live in Texas. Winter, yes, is ideal. Fall, it's probably for a priority race. Spring half marathon. Yep. Okay. So you can kind of see it's all different. It also can depend on your career, right? So I know like school teachers, maybe it's ideal to do that early fall training or that early fall race because you have like the majority of the summer, even though it's hot, but you have that going on. Or maybe you have kids in competitive soccer and maybe like my friend Kelly, I have one kid in soccer, but she has literally 4 kids in soccer. Like her fall weekends are insane. So it's really hard for her to balance marathon training during that time. So not only do we want to think about, okay, which races do we want to do, but like, how is this going to affect our lives? It's also like, I know like I have certain busy times and I'm self-employed, so I can schedule these kind of things when I want, but I purposely don't schedule like something like this the week before my marathon when I'm preparing for it and getting ready for it. So trying to be cognizant of that. I know that obviously marathons and races are going to come second to real life. But if you can think about that, it can make your life a little bit better and easier. I mean, same with travel. Like if you know that you are doing like this huge trip, maybe it's a 3-week trip and you're not gonna be able to like really run at all. You don't want to do that a month before your race, right? You can totally do that 4 months before your race or like over the summer and have a fall race, but you ideally don't want to do that right before. Otherwise, you're gonna have to train on your vacation. And while you can on vacation, just not always as fun. So when you're choosing races, I know you can't always make it but there's so many options for races. And if you guys want to even share in the chat, what are some of your favorite races to do that people can get some ideas. But another thing you want to think about is if your goal for a race is to run your fastest race, let's say, so there's all different reasons why we might run races. This presentation is more related to performance. So we're going to talk about that, which is, what's the terrain like? You want to look at the elevation profile of the race and is it going to be super hilly? And if it is, it's going to be a slower course. No matter how much we train you for the hills, you're going to run slower overall than you would on a flat course. Or is it a slight downhill? Now you have to consider, it depends on, well, that doesn't really matter, but some of the races are super downhill, which is going to have we're going to have different training because we're going to really need to work your quads and make sure you're prepared for that. But you want to think about like historically, is the weather really good? Like I'm doing CIM, which is a marathon in Sacramento. And while there is risk that it might rain, overall, it is always very cool. There's never going to be a heat, just watch it happen, but there's never going to be a heat wave in December in Sacramento. So I know that will be a nice, cool race. Whereas Chicago Marathon, for example, it's like 50-50 whether that race will have good weather or not. All right. So when we think about our training, you were thinking about 3 phases, which is base building. And I would say off season is another element of this, but base building, which is that early stage of training. And the goal of base building is to really get your train, like get your body ready as it can be, so that when we're in our build and our peak phase, which is the final 8 to 10 weeks, we can really do some great, hard and like challenging workouts that are going to boost your fitness to the new level. But in base building, one of the things we really want to focus on is increasing our mileage, getting used to the frequency of running. And even though we are fairly far out from our race, it is important to try to maintain a lot of consistency and really get your schedule in place. So as a run coach, I want to see someone's base building. We're getting to the point, like say eventually we're going to run 5 days a week. I want to make sure that you're able to run 5 days a week beyond. It just might not be as many miles per run. And then as we get closer to the race, you're not necessarily going to need to run more runs. We're just going to boost the volume up, and you're going to be able to handle that along with some harder runs because you have such a great base. And this is one of the shifts I really want you to think about with this entire training and overall when you look at your year is your training is not ideally just this 16-week training plan or this 12-week training plan or this 20-week training plan. However fit you come into training, you're able to come out of training even fitter. So if you feel like every time you start a new training plan, you're starting over kind of, then you're really not able to reach the potential that you would, because you're kind of spending at least the first 6 weeks. It takes about 6 weeks to fully adapt, really catching up from where you were before. So the way that I would encourage you to structure a year is with those 2 races, and you have the training, like say you back up, say it's a half marathon and you have a 12-week plan, you would back up 12 weeks, but then there's an off-season component between, and that off-season you still want to be running. You don't need to run as far. You don't need to even do workouts if you don't want, but you're still doing runs. You're not completely taking that time off. And the other side of this coin is there's this other group of people who don't know how to take a break. And so your training might look the same year round because you're so afraid to take a break and to take rest that you're really losing some of your gains because you're not allowing yourself to fully rest. So after a race, I make every single one of my athletes take a full week off of running minimum. And then we do what is like a reverse taper to get back into it. There's no speed workouts. We're not doing crazy long runs. And I don't care how fit you are, how amazing the race went, how bad it went. If you raced and we spent a whole training cycle building you up for it, you need to rest. You're going to rest. And then when you come back, you're going to feel a little bit off, but you're going to start to get stronger and stronger. And we're going to be able to build on that. So make sure you're giving yourself that time to, and also like mentally, like have something else to do. All right. So let's talk about strength training. And this is going to be a little bit less of a focus of the call, but let's talk a little bit about the difference between getting stronger and building muscle, because I think this is also something that really gets lost in the shuffle on social media. So strength versus muscle building, they're actually 2 different things. So when we're a runner, as runners, we want to get stronger. We don't necessarily need to build bulk and muscle. So if you follow any like bodybuilding accounts or any bodybuilders or people who do physique type stuff, you're going to notice that they are lifting, every advice they give you is based on muscle building. We are wanting to, and you will get, like you can see from this picture of me that I have muscles. So even though I am working on my strength, I'm still creating a body composition change. I'm still getting stronger, but we want to work on strength because that improves your running economy, which means you can run faster with less energy. It increases your power, which is like the force production, meaning you can also run faster, and it also helps you improve your injury risk. Runners really should do heavier lifting, which is lower reps and more rest between, and also functional strength. So functional strength is kind of like if you've ever been to physical therapy, it is things like, which include mobility and stability. It's usually used with like a small resistance loop or a band. I usually schedule these. I just literally if you were to look up like hip mobility for runners on YouTube, you're going to find videos for this. But you don't want to only lift heavy. You want to also have that functional strength. So you want a combination of both of those things. So the way that I periodize the strength training is in the off season and base building, you're going to do more of that heavier lifting. And it really depends on your personality, meaning if you really love strength training, like go for it in the base and off season of four workouts a week. That is more than you need. You probably need, ideally I'd have someone doing 3 in the off season or a base building. But if you're going from nothing, then even 2 is great. And then as we get into peak training, I'm okay with just 1 lifting session per week. And then you want to have some of that functional and that mobility and that core workouts. At least I would like to have 2. And this can even be just super short. Like I said, 10, 15 minutes of hip mobility, core strengthening, like those little, like you're working like your adductors and like these little muscles. And those make a huge difference for you with your legs actually feeling better in training, and then also with injury prevention. So this is going to be a big difference between if you like, say you went and followed some random fitness person's plan that has nothing to do with running. This is going to be the difference, is you're probably not going to see as much of that type of stuff. You're going to see the kind of workouts that are going to get you to like build more of that muscle versus strength that you need to be a better, faster runner. All right, periodizing nutrition. So this is my, the running is also my favorite topic, but periodizing nutrition is really something that I have created a specialty in for runners through my Run Fuel weight loss program and also my Run Fueled and Faster community. And this is where we take all that confusing nutrition information and we really talk about what actually works. So the way that you fuel your body, it needs to match your goals. So if you're here and you're like, I really would like to lose some amount of weight, but it's not my main focus. I really want a PR and I really want to, or I want to run my fastest I can. You're going to benefit from some kind of nutrition, eating higher quality foods, more whole foods, making sure you understand how to fuel your body. And if you want to work on weight loss, that really needs to be in the off season or base building. So meaning at least 3-4 months out from that big race or more. If you're someone who you have a significant amount of weight to lose, your current habits are not as healthy, you know that you need to make a change, and weight loss and health is more important to you than your running goals, then I believe that you could work on weight loss even during training for a race. But you have to know that that is going to be the priority over the race. And I would only say that if you're an experienced runner who has, you run quite often. And it's not like this is your first time running a marathon or first time running a half marathon. But if you have done them consistently for a long time and weight loss is the priority, then honestly, that should be the priority. We can work on nutrition and then the running is the secondary. So the way that I teach is using what's called the runner's plates. So it's a way that you can see it right here. You can look at your, it's on this one. You can look at your plate and create your meals without measuring anything. There are certain recommendations generally for protein, carbs, and amount of fiber that you're going to want to get. And we do in my Run Fuel program, we do start you by doing a little bit of self-audit and we look at those numbers, but I really like to have people not actually track macros or calories and really just create a way that feels very sustainable where you can just create your plate based on where you're at in your training cycle and what your goals are at that moment. So there's a weight loss or lower training volume plate. There's a moderate training plate and there's a high training plate. The high training plate has a lot of carbs. It's 50% minimum carbs. And then you also, when you're in high training, meaning if you're a high performance or higher mileage marathoner or half marathon, you need to be eating at least 50% of carbs at every meal. Plus most of your snacks need to be largely carbs, always paired with some protein or fat to help with management of your blood sugar and glucose and everything. But you got to eat a lot of carbs. And I can tell you right now, I'm eating so many carbs and I'm peak marathoning and I'm not gaining weight. I actually just read a new study that came out that showed that high performance, high mileage runners, female runners, were under eating calories and carbs by around 600 per day. They had a lot of them had anemia. They had different signs that were not so good in their blood. They had all of these runners increase carbs up to no deficits. They ate 500 more calories of carbs a day. None of them gained weight, but all of them improved in those markers. So it is also at this point, when I talk about eating more carbs when you're in peak training, it doesn't mean that we're going out and eating French fries and donuts and cookies and all the kids' Halloween candy, although I am eating some of that kids' Halloween candy. I will be honest there. But we want to make sure that we're eating quality carbs and we're timing them around our training. So that is incredibly important too, is the timing of them and making sure that you can periodize your fueling even throughout the season. So this is, again, that's a really high level look at how you're going to change your nutrition. This is all what I dive into in Run Fuel and I teach you over the course of 3 months. So it's not overwhelming. You're applying it step by step. All right. So this is the example game plan that I make of your best run year yet, as I call it. And this shows you the ebbs and the flows. I'm going to send you guys this presentation afterwards via email. So you don't need to zoom in and try to read every single thing on here. But essentially it kind of shows you with the calendar going across that here we have a half marathon in April, and we have an October or November marathon. So essentially how you can apply this to your own training is you get out your own year. You decide, what do I want to do in this season? What do I want to do in this season? Whether that's spring and fall, or maybe you live in Texas, so it's winter, and you guys obviously don't race in the summer. So it's probably like winter and, late or early spring or late fall, or you're traveling and going somewhere else. Thanks. Larissa said, thanks for saying you're going to share the information. You can't keep up. Yeah, it's a lot. And it does get easier. And it also helps when you have someone helping you do it for you. But, so this is kind of how you would periodize it. Let's just say you have this half marathon in April. January or even December, you are working on, if you have a weight loss goal, you're working on weight loss and your nutrition habits while you're building your base mileage. Then as you get closer to the race, at that time also your strength training with that heavier lifting, ideally 2 or maybe 3 days a week, but it depends on your schedule, right? As you get 2 months out from the race, we're going to shift more to that moderate or that high volume runner's plate. We're going to strength train a little bit less, meaning maybe just one heavy lifting, one functional strength with a core. We're going to do our race specific speed workouts and pace work. And then we're going to taper and we're going to race our half marathon. After the half marathon, you're going to take a week off. You're going to recover. You're going to catch up on all your life. Like I'm in peak marathon training. Literally, this is my peak week. And I keep thinking like, I'm going to do that after. I just have this ongoing to-do list of things that I'm going to do. Literally today I was like, I need to get, my 10-year-old is still very picky. I was like, we're going to work on that in December. Thinking about all these things I want to work on after, because it is a lot. After the race, that's when you do your reflection, your recovery, your celebration. You take a mental break from training and your physical break as well. And then maybe this is a little bit of an off season. So you decide this is again going to be based on your individual goals, your personality, but I really love strength training. So I might take a more intense strength focused summer, depending on what my goals are. If you have this marathon, say you're doing a marathon in the fall, I would actually want you in the off season to be working a little bit more on mileage, because we want to build up for that marathon in the fall. But in the off season, you're going on vacation. You're not stressing about whether you get the run in or not. Maybe you feel like running on vacation, you go. If you don't, you don't, right? It's just not as much going on there. And then we're going back to, okay, the race is coming. We're going to do this November marathon, and, training's going to start in July and August we're going back to those same things. Again, cycle over cycle, you can also focus on different elements of your training. So as a run coach, what things I'm going to look at is, okay, does this runner, and when they ran their race, what was their biggest limiting factor? So if it was your legs, for example, they felt super heavy and you couldn't do it, or maybe it was your fueling, you didn't fuel well, or maybe it was that your lungs just didn't feel like they could keep up. I'm going to take that information and I'm going to make your plan for the next season a little different. So I'm going to say, okay, how did if she for example, I will go with myself. I can crush a speed workout. I'm very good at short intervals, and I struggle with tempo or longer sustained, that medium, gritty effort, which is basically racing a half marathon or a marathon. That is for me, my weakness. So I know in the next, I need to work on that in my next training cycle. So you're kind of adapting and taking things as you go. So it's not like it's going to be the exact same training. Obviously for a marathon, we're going to be focusing a little bit more on the length of the long run, on more volume, on different types of workouts. But again, we're going through the same thing where we're recovering, we're reflecting, and we're going. So although this might look like it's actually, obviously it's changing season to season, there's consistency throughout. And there's variety, which makes it more fun because we all get stale and our body adapts to training stimulus, like I said, 6 to 8 weeks. So if you're doing the exact, say you like are just a creature of habit and you're just doing the exact same runs in and out, in and out, in and out all year round. Like you meet this friend on this day, you do this workout on this day, then you go to the track with these friends and you guys do 800s and then you do this, or maybe you don't go to the track, but you run the same kind of things all year round. Your body is going to get used to it and you're probably not going to get any faster. So you need to have this kind of ebbs and flows and then these new stimulus that come in and challenge you in different ways. And it's all a work in progress. So no one's perfect. Every single training cycle, I always remind my athletes this, every single training cycle is written in pencil and it is kind of intended that you're going to miss, you're going to get sick or kids are going to get sick or you're going to go on vacation, you're going to come back and you're jet lagged and you're going to miss a run. It's not about being perfect, but when you're more consistent and you've had that off season where you've done some of this work, you've gotten stronger, you've built a base, 1 or 2 missed runs, or even 2 weeks of missed runs, as some athletes, it happens, it doesn't matter because in the grand scheme of things, you're so consistent. It doesn't really matter if you miss. And it can create this, like, it can relieve some of that pressure of everything having to go so perfectly or well, because you know that you are strong, that you're getting better, and that it's all intentionally created versus you feeling like, oh my gosh, I missed these runs on my plan and I don't know what to do. And we want to feel good about our training and feel like it's getting us in the right direction. So the last thing I'll just talk about is the mindset of all of this, which is these are the shifts I encourage you to make. Trying to do it all at once, one focus at a time. So just saying, what am I focusing on now? What is that priority? So this goes for, again, if you do have a goal of gaining muscle and getting strength, when you're in the off season and it's like, okay, I'm going to have to miss a run today, or I'm going to have to miss a workout this week because I'm traveling or because life, right? Which one do you miss? When your goal is strength training and getting muscle, you're going to miss the run that time, right? If your goal is to qualify for Boston that year, you're going to miss the strength training and you're going to do the run, because when you have a goal related to running faster and running your best, you need to run more. So you want to always pick the run over the strength. I don't want you to do that to the point where you're not strength training at all, but you're going to pick that, right? If that's the goal. And then when it comes to nutrition, we do need to say, is, healthier eating, is losing the weight, is it more important than the running goal at this point? So if you have a significant amount of weight to lose and you want to run a really good race next year, maybe it's like the spring, we focus on weight loss and some shorter races. And then in the fall, we do the big race after you've lost 20, 30 pounds. And then we're learning how to fuel your body and maintain for that next cycle, right? So knowing kind of what are we focusing on now, and knowing you don't have to do it all at once. So again, we're going from the all or nothing mindset to consistency. This has been huge for me. I used to go on vacations and just, in quotes, eat whatever I want. But it was more than what I wanted. I would just go, like, I had this like trigger that like, we're on vacation, we're gonna go crazy, we gotta get drinks as soon as we get there, and then we gotta eat the nachos and we gotta do all these things. And I have completely shifted, not completely, I still have a little bit of that, but you're human. But I have gone to, I can enjoy myself on vacation, but I can also make healthy choices and I can have some of my favorite foods. And now I don't have to like scale back or cut, give anything up in order to get back, because I don't gain the weight back. I don't lose my running base. I'm just consistently moving through. And then this big shift of running to eat, meaning I'm running, I get rewarded by eating what I want, to eating to run, meaning the foods that you put in your body, especially as we get older, you just feel them. I know you guys you relate. You feel the way that food impacts you so much more. I notice it in my sleep. I'm a nerd and I have one of these watches that tells me how I sleep and all of that. And I literally even notice it in that when I'm not eating as well. Of course, there's more to life than optimization of our performance. And we're going to enjoy food because we love it. But when you start to think of like, how is this this fuel going to make me feel? That's when you choose the banana over the Pop-Tart, because you know the banana has fiber. The banana doesn't have added junk in it. And the banana comes from the earth. And full of carbs. It's really the perfect snack. And the Pop-Tarts are not, right? Even though, yes, maybe they have a similar amount of sugar content, which one is really, truly better for you, right? It's the banana. So when we start thinking that way versus like the reward of like, oh, I ran 20 miles, I deserve to go to do this, to eat whatever I want today, or go to do the drive-through or whatever. When we start thinking, okay, I'm going to put these certain foods in my body so that I feel, sleep, perform, recover faster, it really starts to make a difference. And when we start going back to that cue of like how I feel, it actually creates those longer term habits. And the last one is I'm too old to, my best running years are ahead of me. And I hope that you do believe that, because I believe it for you. And maybe watching this presentation kind of made you realize like, oh, there's a lot of things that maybe I'm missing, or there's one thing I'm missing, or there's one thing I can improve at. And maybe this can make a big difference for me, because it really can. These little things, these nuances, they can make a huge difference. I've seen people where they feel like I don't know if Liza's on this call, but you know, when she came to me, she had never finished a marathon without walking. And she never thought that in her 40s, she would be able to run faster or finish stronger or any of that. We started working together. She wasn't doing a lot of strength training. Then we added strength training. And I remember the first time she did a race after that, she was like, my legs felt so strong. I never felt like I have so much power at the end of a race. So the strength training made a huge difference. We also worked on her fueling. She's taking in way more carbs and gels and feeling amazing. And then she just ran the Marine Corps marathon PR to age 45. I'm so proud of her. And she was like, I couldn't even believe it. And I know that Allison is also on this call, who just BQ'd again for the second time. And also she's 44. Are you 45? Yeah, I feel like her birthday's coming up right now. But it doesn't, like, your age doesn't matter. We can keep going and keep making improvements. And, you know, if you were someone who was really fast athlete in your 20s and your teens, and you want to say you have a master's, you're working on your master's PR or your mom PR, and you're kind of saying like, how can I get better in this decade of life? Then we can make goals around that too. But I think having the goal of improving is healthy, it's exciting, and you deserve it. All right. Okay. So I've already briefly talked about pretty much all of these, but I am a run coach who does one-on-one coaching. And if you want someone to come in and do all of this for you, so you don't have to do it yourself, I literally just sent Liza the overview of what we're going to do for next year in terms of all of these goals. And she picked her races, and then I outlined it. And she was like, I'm so excited about this. So if you feel like you want a coach who could kind of help you balance all of those things, and you do want to work on nutrition, strength, running, and you have a race that you're already planning on doing, but even if you don't, I highly encourage you to do one-on-one coaching, because we can work on setting those goals together, making the plan, and working together. And I want to encourage you that it doesn't matter how fast you are or how big your goals are, because your goals are important no matter what. And I know sometimes people are like, I don't know if I am fast enough for a coach, or I'm not training for a marathon. So I don't know, but it does make a huge difference. And we work together very closely. We do a lot of that mindset stuff that can really help, especially if you're someone who is really hard on themselves at times, and having the reassurance that you're on the right path and can make a difference. I also have my Run, Fueled, and Faster community. That is a community for female runners over 35. And we have monthly challenges related to nutrition or running. It alternates between the two. So right now we're doing this plant challenge where we're trying to eat 30 plants a week, which sounds intimidating, but it can be easier than you think, because plants include oats, and cilantro counts as a plant. So that's what we're going on in that community right now. And then each month there's a different one. There's a call, you get access to me. We have monthly or weekly goal setting, and I share tips in there and fueling advice. And in December, we're doing an off-season strength challenge. So if you're wanting to challenge yourself to some strength training in the off-season, get accountability around doing that, and do it with another group of runners, you can join us for that. And then the last one is my Run Fuel Weight Loss for Runners program. This is a 3-month program where I walk you through my 4-step Run Fuel Weight Loss system, where you're going to learn how to lose the weight in a sustainable way and lose weight as a runner. So in the context of running. So you'll learn a lot of what I've shared with you today, but in a much deeper level. And there's also accountability. Each week you're going to be checking in. I'm going to be looking at what you've each week. I'm available there for you to ask questions, to get coaching, and to get individualized guidance as well. So if you're interested in any of those, you can go to fitnessfatale.com. I'll also include a link in the email I send you after this. But either way, I am just so glad that you're here, and I really hope that you have the best run year ever next year. And does anyone have any questions? Whew, that was a lot of talking. Coaching is usually you guys talking and me responding. So does anyone have any questions? We have about 12 more minutes if anyone has anything. I don't know if anyone can actually unmute, but if you have a question and you want to ask in the chat, go ahead. I see some other people are Wordle fans. And all right. All right, I will send you guys the slides so that you have them. And I am very much looking forward to, if you have any questions that come up after you've absorbed some of the information I sent, then feel free. What are your thoughts on running and perimenopause with all the noise on social media? I have the same thoughts with the nutrition, is that you can definitely run while you're in perimenopause. Yes, you can still run. You do need to make sure that you're fueled. I do not recommend intermittent fasting with running. You should eat before, but yeah, you can definitely run while you're in perimenopause. I would say strength training is important as well, and the protein needs, but it's like the amount of protein you need is actually 1.6 to 2 grams, which is not nearly as much as 200 grams of protein. If you're pairing a race with travel, do you recommend not making it a goal race, not trying to PR in some way? This is a very good question. So I do, if there is so a lot of times you do have to travel for a marathon, because there's not that, as we all know, I have a hometown marathon. It's the Rock and Roll marathon. It is very hilly. So I do have to travel. I would say if it's a local travel where you can drive, or it's a 1-hour flight and you're in the same time zone, you totally can PR. And I also think I've had people go across the world in PR. It kind of depends on your personality. I do not do very well when I travel across the country or to a new time zone, and then I try to race the day after, right? Or the 2 days after. So if you're going to travel, say example, you're going to do the Berlin Marathon, I would want you to get there 4 days early, because you're in Berlin, so you can go travel around to get to use. That's a huge example. I'm going from California to Berlin. I would want to go I would want to travel 4 days early. If you're going across the country, ideally, if you could say the race was on Sunday and you could get there on Thursday, that'd be better. I still think you could do it. I do think for the world majors in general, or the really big races, it can be slightly harder to PR for a few reasons. Doesn't mean you can't. Number one is that usually they have these crazy long, it takes a really long time to get to the start of that. But then a lot of times the race is really crowded in the beginning. And so you're really it's hard to get your space. Then it can also be hard to run tangents, which means that the course you'll end up running extra mileage. So it doesn't mean you can't. And when we talk about PRs, when someone's at the beginning of their running, or maybe they're making a postpartum comeback like Natalie is, we can take a lot more time off our PR than when we've been running a really long time. It's going to be harder and harder to get some time off your race. I think no matter what, you can race well, as long as you're setting yourself up and being cognizant. And it kind of depends on your personality too, in terms of that. I know I'm going to Sacramento for my race, And since it's only an hour, I'm not too worried about that same time zone. Jackie asked where you can find pricing. So the pricing is on my website. If you go to fitnessfatal.com, and at the top, you'll see the one-on-one coaching. And then Run Fuel, I also have the pricing on there for Run Fuel. So, but all of it's up there. And thanks, Jackie. I'd love to work with you. All right. Any other questions? And again, with trying to races, like sometimes you go because it's fun, right? So I have my name in for Berlin, and I don't know what'll happen if I get into that race, but it'll be a fun trip. That's for sure. And Natalie, I would also say, because Natalie's one of my one-on-one clients, is if you're going to bring your kids, then we want to talk a little bit about that, right? In terms of, is that setting you up for the most success? Not that I'm saying that it shouldn't be there, but I just know it's a little bit more of a mental load and physical load when you bring in your kids on the trip. All right, thanks guys. And I will send you an email with the slides and replay. And I really appreciate you all being here, and I'll talk to you soon. All right. Definitely not bringing your kids. Date weekend, that sounds fun. All right, thanks guys.